Hello, we welcome you to this Bible study of the Banking Blessings Ministry. My name is Goodluck Ofebu. This is my wife. Today we have family members visiting with us. We have His Royal Highness Eze Walter Eku and his wife, Lolo Ugoze. Yeah, please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much.
Look at the
my
camera.
in-law, I am His Royal Highness Walter Eku, visiting from Dallas, and I'm glad to be here with you today. You are my sister, so thank you for inviting us, and I think it's going to be a very pleasant discussion this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Ugeze.
My name is Ugeze Ifiebu, visiting from Dallas. Thank you. Thank God for being here. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Well, today we'll begin a new series where we look at the experience in exile of 4 Israelites that were held in captivity in Babylon. What happened was King Nebuchadnezzar had attacked Judah, defeated Judah, plundered the house of God, carried off whatever he could. But he didn't stop there. He selected from Israel men of a certain quality, and we'll read the details in the Bible. He was very particular about the type of people he wanted, because he wanted these people to be of service to him, and there are certain types of people that he wanted to be in his service. The incident that we're going to look at came up because he placed these 4 Israelites in a special training program, and then he allotted a special diet directly from his kitchen for them because he wanted them to develop a certain health standard, a certain look. But this raised a problem, and we're going to discuss the details later on. And our focus in the Bible study is the way that Daniel negotiated a resolution so that he remained obedient to the king, but at the same time did not do anything that would displease God. His intention was to be obedient to the king, but drawing a line that anything that crosses that line that will displease God, that he will not do. And he was able to accomplish this in this particular incident. He was able to accomplish it in a peaceful way. And we want to learn the skills, the methods he's used, because being able to resolve a dispute peacefully is very important to Christians. We will learn that while living in captivity in a foreign land, Daniel used his negotiation skill to resolve a dispute regarding food, and we'll see the details later on. And this cleared the way for him and his 3 friends to complete a special training program so that they could prepare themselves for service to the king. And when they finished, the king found them to be better prepared than all the people that he was used to. Everything we study comes from Daniel chapter 1, and we'll read the relevant passages in the Bible to illustrate the story. Our focus, of course, is the dispute settlement. As I said, the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, conquered Judah and then conscripted selected young men from Judah. And among them were these 4: Daniel, who they renamed Belshazzar, then Hananiah, who they renamed Shadrach, Mishael, who they renamed Meshach, and Azariah, who they renamed Abednego. Of course, there are many other, there were several other people, but we are focusing on these 4. And in fact, the Bible passage we are reading, or the Bible chapter, the book of the Bible that we'll be reading this from actually focuses on these four. And as we read this, we find that God has prepared some important life lessons for us, lessons that are relevant to our understanding of His purpose for human interactions and human relationships. Let us start our reading from Daniel chapter 1, verses 1 to 4 and verses 6 to 7. I'll have Obi read this, and then if you will read the next, do the next reading.
We're reading from the book of Daniel chapter 1, reading from New King James Version. Chapter 1 verse 1. In the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with some of the articles of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God. And he brought the articles into the treasure house of his God. Verse 3. Then the king instructed Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, to bring some of the children of Israel, and some of the king's descendants, and some of the nobles. Four young men in whom, verse 4, young men in whom there was no blemish, but good looking, gifted in all wisdom, possessing knowledge and quick to understand, who had ability to serve in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the language and literature of the Chaldeans.
Go ahead.
Verse 6. Now from among those of the sons of Judah were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. To them the chief of the eunuchs gave names. He gave Daniel the name Belshazzar, to Hananiah Shadrach, to Mishael Meshach, and to Azariah Abednego.
Well, so these people have been captured, and the purpose of capturing them was to train them for king's service. So the king placed them in a 3-year service, and then allotted them daily ration of food and wine directly from the king's kitchen. We will see that the reason for this is that he wanted them, he wanted a certain appearance of all the people that work with him. He wanted them to look robust, well-fed and well-nourished and all that. And he felt that the way to accomplish this was to feed them directly from his kitchen. So he allotted food to them that they would eat during the 3 years of their service. Let us read from Daniel chapter 1 verse 5. And if you will read this and the next, I'll tell you. So if we read Daniel chapter 1 verse 5.
Okay. I'm reading from New International Version.
Okay.
And I'm reading Daniel chapter 1 verse 5. The king assigned them a daily ration of food and wine from his own kitchen. They were to be trained for 3 years, and then they would enter the royal service.
Okay. Well, this raised a concern because they were used to, the people, both Israelites and these people were used to processing their food through a religious rite. Israelites, of course, by praying to God and all that. But these people would perform their own religious rites on their food. We don't know what it was, and we don't really care. That's not important here. But what is important is after they have passed their food through this service, then if you ate that food with them, then to some extent you are joining in their worship. You are joining in whatever rite they had performed on that food. So this was a problem for Daniel and his friends, and they determined that they would not do this because They wanted to worship God, and they didn't want anything that would happen to them in captivity to change their worship. They drew a line. They were determined to be obedient to their captors, obedient to the king, and to serve the king well. But they drew a line. They did not want whatever they were going to do there to affect their worship of God. They wanted to worship God. So this created a conflict. Daniel and his 3 friends were determined that they were not going to consume the food and drink that the king had allotted to them. They were also determined to be obedient to the king. So there are 2 things they needed to accomplish that were now in conflict with each other. Being obedient to the king and not eating the food that the king wanted them to eat. So this presented a problem that Daniel decided to deal with, and we will see how he dealt with it. And we're looking at this in detail because we often have to deal with conflicts in our life. We often have to resolve either a dispute between different people, or in fact a dispute between 2 things that you want to do, an internal dispute within a person, that you want to do 2 things but they are in conflict somehow, and somehow you have to find a resolution. So we'll look at what Daniel did here and try to learn from it. The first thing he did was that he went to the chief of eunuchs. He understood the chain of command. This is a key step in dealing with any conflict, is to find out who is in charge. You don't want to be talking to the wrong person. He knew that the king gave order to his chief of eunuchs, and then the chief of eunuchs assigned a steward to take care of Daniel and his friends. So Daniel felt that the authority lied with the chief of eunuchs. Of course, seeing the king was a very difficult thing, so he wouldn't even think about that. But he didn't think it was necessary. He felt it was the chief of eunuchs that he should talk to. Another thing here is that he decided to approach the chief of eunuchs and talk to them. Another way, they could have said, okay, look, we don't want this food, we're not going to eat it, and they'll start starving. They'll starve. Well, the king didn't take kindly to people disobeying him. So they didn't really want to handle it through that kind of confrontation. He wanted a negotiated solution. And the first step toward the negotiated solution was to approach the person who he believed had the authority to understand what this was all about, and maybe exempt him from it, or at least explain to him why he would not be exempted. Let us read about this. Daniel chapter 1 verse 8. If he will read. Daniel chapter 1 verse 8.
Daniel chapter 1 verse 8. I'm reading from the New International Version. But Daniel was determined not to defile himself by eating the food and wine given to them by the king. He asked the chief staff for permission not to eat this unacceptable food.
So he went to the chief of the eunuchs, or the chief official, chief staff, as the NIV called it, to find out what this was about and see whether he has any room. So he approached the chief. He was determined to reject the food, but he wanted to find a solution to the problem. Actually, before I proceed here, I don't know, honey, you want to jump in and say something?
Yeah, what I want our viewers to keep track of is our listeners, is the environment in which Daniel and his friends were operating, because that's very important. It was a different culture from where they are, and a culture that did not worship God, yes, that had other gods. So it's not like oh, it was a divided place. You could go to where it was people of like culture were, and you had those who were. It was a completely new environment, a culture that they were not used to. And not just that they were not used to, it was a culture that was in disagreement with their beliefs and did not worship the God that they know. So it was like double jeopardy for them, that they were captives and then they were also in a totally different place, and a place that was alien to their beliefs and hostile to their beliefs.
Yes. And in this background, Daniel wanted to find a negotiated solution to the first conflict that they faced. I mean, it was very easy for them to have totally said, look, forget it, we are not doing this. If they are going to kill us, let them kill us. But he didn't believe that. He wanted to see what God had in store for them. And when you want to discover what God has in store for you, you try to make peace with your environment. You try to talk your way through things. You try to understand what is going on to see whether there is a way out of a problem. And that's what he did. So he went to the chief of eunuchs and asked him for exemption. You know, he said, look, we don't really want to eat this food. Is there a way for you to exempt us? Can you exempt us? Because the Bible said, he told the chief of eunuchs that that this food will be defiling for them. But the point is, he did tell him they didn't want to eat this food. Is there a way for them to be exempted from it? Then the chief of eunuchs explained to him. I said, look, this diet was assigned to you by the king because he wants you to accomplish a certain minimum health standard. And the way that he will evaluate your health, whether you accomplish this health standard, is through your looks, how you look compared to all the other people of your age. He didn't want you any sign of being malnourished. If I exempt you, and then the king sees you in sometime after now and notices that you are not as well nourished as he wants, he's going to descend on me and punish me. So now what Daniel learned from here is, okay, before we discuss what he learned, let us read about this. We have Ife read again, then the reading will come back to Obi on the next round. Daniel chapter 1 verses 9 to 10.
NIV. I'm reading from NIV version.
Yeah.
Now God had given the chief of staff both respect and affection for Daniel. But he responded, I am afraid of my lord, the king, who was ordered that you eat this food and wine. If you become pale and thin compared to the other youths your age, I am afraid the king will have me beheaded.
Well, Daniel learned something from this conversation. It's true he didn't get the exemption that he went to ask for, but he understood now what the king really wanted. The king wasn't interested in what they ate. He was only interested in how they looked. He wanted to know that they weren't, he didn't want them to appear malnourished or less well-fed than other people of his age. Mm-hmm. So this is what was important to the king. Now the chief of eunuchs, who the king placed in charge, the only thing that was important to him was that Daniel and his friends satisfied the king's observation. That when the king saw them, the king should see people that looked well-nourished and healthy like all the other people of their age. So Daniel recognized that this is what is important. Then the question now is there a way to accomplish this within the limits that he has set for himself? In other words, a way to satisfy the king and the chief of eunuchs without eating the food that the king had apportioned to them. Then, so this tells us something about when you are going to resolve a dispute, that you need to understand what is important, what is the objective of the parties in the dispute, what do they really want to accomplish, what will satisfy them, and what are the options available for accomplishing what is important to them within the limits that you can accommodate. So in this case, Daniel's limit is he doesn't want to eat that food, and the king's objective was that he looked healthy like all the others. The chief of eunuchs' objective was that the king found them looking healthy like all the others. So then Daniel realized, okay, let us look for an alternative diet. And he recommended an alternative diet, vegetables and water. Now, for him to have taken this, there are a number of things that could have happened. One is maybe he knew enough about vegetables and water available in the area, that in fact they could get just the same level of nourishment that the people that were eating from the king's table would get. So that's one possibility. Another possibility is that he had faith. One of the things that God has promised us, and Christ several generations later taught this through the Sermon on the Mount, where he said that if you hunger for righteousness, if your desire is to please God, then God will help you find how to fulfill that desire. So Daniel must have believed that since their desire was to not depart from worshiping God, that the diet they chose, well, if it is okay, it will be okay. If it wasn't okay, that God will make it okay, so that they will satisfy. So there was faith involved, and there must have been knowledge involved. The important thing is he chose an alternative diet. Another thing he did was, instead of going back to the chief of eunuchs, he went to the steward that served them food. Because he found out the chief of eunuchs really wasn't interested in what they ate, neither was the king. They were only interested in the result, how they looked. So, and the steward, if he had revolted against the steward, then the steward will maybe after some time report that, oh, these people are not eating the food that you've given them. So he wanted something that the steward will accept. He said, look, feed us vegetable and water for 10 days. And then after 10 days, see how we look compared with the others. So he was telling the steward, vegetable and water will be good for us, but don't take my word for it. Just observe us for 10 days. Feed us just vegetable and water. He convinced the steward. So the steward put them to that test. Let us read about this. Daniel chapter 1 verses 11 to 13. Or do you read?
Daniel chapter 1 verse 11. So Daniel said to the steward from whom the chief of the eunuchs has set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days and let them give us vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance be examined before you, and the appearance of the young men who eat the portion of the king's delicacies, and as you see fit, so deal with your servants.
Well, so he believed that this new diet will accomplish the king's objective. He asked the steward not to take his word for it, but to test him. And he believed this based on either his own knowledge of the value of the substitute diet, or faith of God, or both. I believe that both were involved. Well, Daniel's proposal was successful. The steward accepted the proposal, fed them vegetable and water for 10 days. And then after 10 days, he saw that they looked healthy, in fact, healthier than the people that ate from the king's table. So he withdrew the food. Remember now, the steward was the person that was supposed to give them the food. So he had the power to withdraw it. He withdrew the food and fed them vegetable and water because he now saw that vegetable and water was sufficient for them. So Daniel negotiated a solution to this problem. There was no confrontation. They remained in their training. They remained obedient to the king because they were doing the training that the king wanted, and they were remaining healthy as the king wanted. Let us read about this, Daniel chapter 1, verses 14 to 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Daniel.
Yeah, go ahead if you.
I'm reading from 14 to 16. The attendant agreed to Daniel's suggestion and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, Daniel and his 3 friends looked healthier and better nourished than the young men whom had been eating the food assigned by the king. So after that, the attendant fed them only vegetables instead of the food and wine provided for the others.
Yes. So the next thing was they did this for the 3 years of their training. They completed their training. The king was happy with them whenever he saw them. But at the end of the training, he tested them. He put them to really rigorous test. This was real training in everything, including literature and all that. They wanted a certain level of knowledge, a certain level of competence, a certain level of appearance fit for the king. But the king found out that the 4 Jews, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, were better prepared than his own magicians and astrologers, people that he was used to in his service. This was based on the test he gave to them. And let us read this from Daniel chapter 1, verses 17 to 20. Only you read.
Okay. Daniel chapter 1, verse 17, New King James Version. As for these 4 young men, God gave them knowledge and skill in all literature and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the days, when the king had said that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. Then the king interviewed them, and among them all, none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore they served before the king. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding about which the king examined them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers who were in all his realm.
Well, before we talk about what we learned, I think only you have some things. This is a short study, but we're going to have time to talk, so I'm happy that it's short. Go ahead.
Yeah, we thank God for the lesson from the experience of Daniel and his 3 friends, the experience in the land of Babylon. I always like to look at the life application of what we read. How do we, because sometimes people say, oh, those were in the days of the Bible. How can we apply these things? Of what usefulness, of what meaning? How can it impact our lives as we live for God and for, in this, on the earth? First of all, what I learned from here is that whenever you're out to defend God's portion, He defends you and honors you. Defending God's portion, in this case, Daniel and his friends said, we will not defile ourselves with the food from the ancient gods or the people who don't worship the God of Israel. They determined that. So they were defending the portion of God. And that's honoring God, and God honored them. And when you honor God, God honors you with things much more than you honored him. Because it wasn't just that Daniel and his friends met the requirements of the king, they overqualified for it.
Yeah.
And he now gave them even wisdom that made them be found 10 times better than everybody else, not just those they were tested with, but in the realm, in the whole of the kingdom of Babylon. And this catapulted them to the very presence of the king, where God wanted his purpose to be done. Okay, so another thing is, if we look at Daniel and his friends, they decided, it wasn't a decision they just took there, that, oh, we're not going to eat this food. They took a decision that we are going to stick with the God of Israel. We are going to honor the God of Israel. We're not going to, turn our backs to our own God. And therefore, when the temptation, because to me it was a temptation, eating the food and all the delicacies from the king's table, when it was presented to them, it wasn't a thing of struggle. They knew where they wanted to be. That this thing will defile us. So we want to stay with the living God. We want to stay with the God of Israel. It's a decision they took. So oftentimes, when we give thoughts to things that we are, that might become issues for us, and we sort of draw a line, we are not going to go beyond this. When those issues come, you find that you're stronger to say, I have taken this decision, I'm sticking by it, no matter the temptation that will face you. And the challenges, because they were real challenges, because they didn't have anybody there. It wasn't their land. So, without compromising again, Daniel found a way to live by God's standards. He didn't have to compromise. And not just live by God's, it was in a culture that did not honor God. So how can you be living by God's standards in a culture, in the midst of people who didn't honor God, who were even against that your God? So God gave him the wisdom. Is, hey, negotiate. If you don't negotiate, the alternative will be death. Just like the chief of staff said, the king was going to have my head. You can imagine what rebellion would have brought to Daniel.
Yeah.
And if Daniel and his friends were killed, that will truncate the agenda of God.
Yes.
That will truncate the purpose for which God wanted them. And that was to establish his presence in a nation that was worshipping idol. In a nation to establish his presence and his purpose in the land of Babylon.
Yes.
Okay, so that was wisdom. That was wisdom. I did not say, oh, don't give it to us, but he said, try us with something else.
Yeah.
Okay. So the important thing is, whenever you defend God's portion, you honor God, and he in turn honors you. And if we look at examples of people who were faced with similar things in the Bible, what comes to mind, and that is the life of Moses. Remember that Moses was raised an Egyptian prince. He was raised an Egyptian prince. But when he realized who he is, and the time came, he dropped all the regalia of being an Egyptian prince and chose to stay with his people despite the oppression, despite that they were slaves. He chose, I won't remain a prince, I'm going to go with my people who are slaves. Do you know that if Moses remained a prince of Egypt, when the plague came, he would have died? Because he was the first child of the Pharaoh's daughter. So how would then, we can imagine what would happen. Although God will always find somebody to do his agenda, but God had prepared him for that. So it's always good to stick by what you know is right. Once a culture, you can align with it. Daniel and his people stayed with the culture. They even sometimes wore their clothes. As far as it doesn't go against your knowledge of Jehovah and your belief, which is what will define you, in an ancient culture. You stay with them, but don't do anything in that culture that goes against your belief or your worship of Jehovah. So this is something that is very important. Don't cut corners. We often will say, when in Rome, do like the Romans do. That doesn't always, please God. That, doesn't always please God, especially when what the Romans are doing is against the commandments. Yes.
So that's very good. I mean, Daniel and his friends had a well-established limit that they defined for themselves, that they were going to be obedient, but they were not going to cross this line. And that line was they were not going to do anything that will make them worship any other god. They were going to worship God no matter what. And if anything tries to go against their decision to worship God, then that was a conflict. And in this particular case, Daniel chose to solve the conflict, to resolve the conflict through negotiation. And he succeeded because he understood what the king wanted, what the king's official, the chief of eunuchs, what would satisfy him and what would satisfy the steward. Do you have any comment? Yes, any question or comment, whatever, you can say anything you want.
I want to add to what they said.
Okay.
Before the vote, they have already prepared. Faith
Yes.
is the most important thing.
Yes.
They know that you cannot live by food alone.
Yes.
And when you trust the Master, the Alpha and the Omega, the King of all glory, when you have faith, He will guide and give you that strength.
Yeah.
They didn't do it just by me coming out and say, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to reject it. No. It takes faith.
Yes.
It takes faith. Serious faith. Just like Esther in the Bible. That said, if I perish, I perish. She knows who she serves. If you know that God is able to take you to the next level, there's no shaking. You go for it. Because you know you are not there alone. God is the one guiding you. And if you know one thing that Christians do, some of Christians, the one thing they do, they don't know who they serve. Because if you know the Jehovah you serve, if they say that there's fire in that building, you will tell them, let the fire come. Because you know that God will not let you to perish. Because He will defend you. And when you're with God, nothing will happen to you. That's what they did.
Yes.
They know who they serve.
Yes.
They have faith.
Yes.
And further to that, faith without works
Yes.
is
Useless.
It's nothing. So they know their God, and they were determined. They didn't know this was going to face them in Babylon. Before they got there, they knew they were going to stay with Jehovah. And when they got there, and the food was presented to them, they didn't say, my God will understand now that, this is whatever. They added works to their faith to show that, hey, we know that God will deliver us. And that even if He does not deliver us, He is still good. So they went ahead to say, we can't put this thing into our body because it will defile or it means worshiping your gods. And even though they didn't tell them that, but they knew in themselves, they say, hey, this is not the kind of food that Jehovah, we Hebrews, that that Jehovah approves of. So they added that work to their faith, and Jehovah honors that kind of thing. And again, going ahead to say, I will serve the living God, and I'm just paraphrasing. There was something important there. He said that God gave them favor with the chief of staff, favor of affection, and listening to them. He liked Daniel and his friends, and they found favor. So that was God clearing the way for them. Because that chief of staff could have said, oh, you guys don't want to eat this food. He will now double up, searchlight on them for people to watch them. But he just said it and he left it. And that's why Daniel was able to operate at a lower level. Because if he had sent another person and said, make sure those Hebrew children eat that food, then it becomes more difficult.
Yeah.
But God made them find favor with that person, and that's because God has seen their faith and He prepared the way.
Yeah, I'd like to add something to what I've learned today.
Yeah.
You can also put this in the context of the real life today, because sometimes these things that you read in the Bible, you still see some of these things happening today. You just don't read it in the Bible and you think it's something that just happened.
The story.
It keep happening today.
Yes.
Because the God that we serve is a living God, and He has asked you to be with Him, He will be with you. In this particular case, I can see how he was. Daniel, I mean, some people will be in such a situation, they will say, okay, let me go and talk to the chief of eunuchs and say, well, when you got there, he can commonly understand that, well, so what you need us to do is to look robust, and we're going to try to look robust and all that. But then he will say, well, you know what, since they want us to look robust, we're going to try to find a way to look robust. But then, the most important thing is that the ends justifies the means. But he didn't say that. He wants to say, my means is God's means to get to that point.
Yeah.
That was how come he got the wisdom that he was looking for.
Yes.
I've been in situations, where they bring cases to me, in some places where there's this quarrel about this person has given me poisons and this and that. And then when I look at that, I said, first of all, when I get such cases, I said, I'm not, God, what am I going to do here? Because who am I to even handle such a case? The first thing that comes to my mind is ask God for favor. And you'll be looking at a case that has been ongoing for about 7 years. Everybody has tried it.
Complicated. And entangled.
We don't even know what to do. I said, but why are you putting this on me? Because these are big people. They've done it. This king has done it. They've done it. It didn't work. Why would I do it? But immediately you go back to bed and say, okay, I have this case coming up in the next 2 days. Let me pray and see what will happen. I've got a situation where things like that happen, and I said, okay, all these people that you're here, tell me how we're going to handle this case, because everybody has tried it. It didn't work. This person will say, go and worship this, go and bring this, go and bring that. I said, okay, why don't we just take it to God and see what will happen? The first time we did that, everything changed. The result came out immediately. God is a living God, and He gives you the solution.
Yes. Well, these are very good comments, and you can see that there was faith at work here. There was also human understanding, human effort, human application of the capabilities that God has given us. Here is a problem, try to understand the problem, go with faith in God, and try to understand what the various parties are really looking for. And God will show you a way that you can resolve even difficult conflicts. What Daniel resolved here was a difficult conflict. There are so many ways they could have handled it that would have resulted in disaster for the four of them. But the way they handled it, they found a peaceful solution that satisfied them. They didn't defile themselves with the food that they didn't want, and satisfied the king because they looked robust and they finished the training program that was assigned to them. We thank all those that will participate with us by watching the video or listening to the audio for this Bible study. We remind you that all our Bible studies, all the ones we've done in the past and all the ones we'll do in the future, are available at the website bankingblessing.org. bankingblessing.org. And we pray that you will learn something there through this Bible study and through the other ones that will make a positive impact on your life and bring you closer to God's purpose for your life. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Remain blessed.